Good evening, I'm Peter Mansbridge, and this is The National. A spike in hate crimes across the country.
The Canadian Muslim community bore the brunt.
And how the last election, Canadian, not American, may have played a part.
An appalling and detestable lie.
The U.S. Attorney General takes his turn answering tough questions about possible connections with Russia.
That is false. This is what happened.
Plus, a military mother says she was forced to choose between her career and her son. There has been a lot of talk in the past year or so about a potential rise of hate crimes in the U.S. in the wake of Donald Trump's divisive politics and attempts at a Muslim travel ban. But it turns out Canadians don't need to look beyond their own borders. Police reported incidents of hate against Muslims were way up in 2015. And as Katie Simpson tells us, leaders in the Muslim community believe they have a good idea why.
You don't need to look further than the horrific killings of 6 Muslim men in a Quebec mosque earlier this year to understand hate crime is a real problem in Canada. And the newest information from before the incident happened shows attacks against Muslims were on the rise.
Any trend in that direction is deeply troublesome.
Statistics Canada found that overall in 2015, hate crimes rose by 5% over the previous year. Attacks on Jewish Canadians, the LGBT community, and Black Canadians were on the decline, but Black Canadians were still targeted most often. Researchers did find one significant spike. Attacks against Muslims jumped by 60%, with 159 incidents reported in 2015.
The Canadian Muslim community bore the brunt of sinister political rhetoric surrounding the federal election, which painted Muslims as terrorists or terrorist sympathizers, as well as being anti-woman.
The National Council of Canadian Muslims says the Conservative election campaign was a factor in the increase.
When you join the Canadian family in a public citizenship ceremony, it is essential that that is a time where you reveal yourselves to Canadians.
Stephen Harper promised to prevent Muslim women from wearing the niqab during citizenship ceremonies if re-elected.
That I will be faithful.
The moment that Mr. Harper started talking about the face veil, we immediately started getting reports of women being harassed in Canada.
I think created, if you like, a kind of dog whistle environment in Canada, which actually gives rise to people feeling unrestrained to do these sort of things.
But Conservatives adamantly deny the accusation.
I think that's absurd. I think that there's no foundational evidence of that. I think that they'd be best advised to find other reasons.
Whatever is to blame, members of Canada's Muslim community are certainly noticing the emerging trend.
I feel like this wave, this tension is growing bit by bit, and it's very scary, and hopefully, as Canadians, we can rise above it and stop it.
Experts worry hate crimes against Muslims will continue to rise given the divisive rhetoric coming out of the U.S. from Donald Trump. There's also concern the numbers might actually be much higher, as hate crimes often go unreported. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions took his turn on the hot seat today. He faced tough questions from the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee about his boss, President Donald Trump, former FBI head James Comey, and the lingering specter of Russian ties to the White House. In a moment, Paul Hunter with what happened, but first, here's what led to today. Early February, after a marathon debate, the U.S. Senate confirms Sessions as Attorney General. About a month later, reports surface about previously undisclosed meetings with Russian officials before the election campaign. The next day, Sessions recuses himself from the FBI's probe into Russian ties to the Trump campaign. 2 months after that, he advises President Trump to fire James Comey. With that as background now, here's Paul on today's testimony and what it means.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
And with that, the Attorney General of the United States sat down to take questions, with no shortage of drama to senators investigating whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia to meddle in last year's election. Sessions, a strong backer of Trump, was clear. He said any suggestion that he was a part of or even knew of such stuff
is an appalling and detestable lie.
Today's hearing follows last week's equally high-stakes testimony by former FBI Director James Comey, fired by Trump in a move critics believe was aimed at weakening the Russia investigation. When asked to shed light on that based on talks he's had with Trump, said Sessions repeatedly,
I'm not able to discuss with you or confirm or deny the nature of private conversations that I may have had with the president.
Bringing frustration from Democrats.
Now you're not answering questions. You're impeding this investigation.
I believe the American people have had it with stonewalling.
But steadfastness from Sessions.
I am not stonewalling. I am following the historic policies of the Department of Justice.
The whole thing seemed at times to leave Sessions mystified.
It's just like through the looking glass. I mean, what is this?
Because on other aspects, he was repeatedly adamant. He's had no undisclosed meetings with Russia, he said, and he emphasized he recused himself from the Russia investigation strictly because he was a Trump advisor in last year's campaign. And what's more, he added,
I did not recuse myself from defending my honor against scurrilous and false allegations.
To Comey's suggestion last week there were other, as Comey put it, problematic reasons for the recusal, Sessions was defiant.
This is a secret innuendo being leaked out there about me, and I don't appreciate it.
All of this amid reports Donald Trump is meanwhile considering firing Robert Mueller, the special prosecutor who's also investigating the Russia allegations. Sessions testified he has confidence in Mueller, but he has no idea what the president thinks. Says he hasn't talked to him about it. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
The Chief of the Defense Staff says everybody's valued in the Canadian Armed Forces, but a Canadian naval officer says she was told to choose between her career as a warship navigator and the young son she was raising alone. She told her story to CBC News just 1 week after the government set new targets for recruiting more women into the Canadian Forces. Murray Brewster has the story.
We need to take a stronger stand in defense of human rights, especially those of women and girls.
Today was supposed to be about the empowerment of women on Parliament Hill. Now, hold that thought for a minute.
At the time, I had tried to place my duty to the country above my son. And I couldn't do it.
Sub-Lieutenant Laura Nash was training to be a maritime warfare officer in Esquimalt in 2013. She was called to meet with 2 female superior officers. She had recently become a single mom and could not go to sea.
And they told me that if I didn't get rid of my child by January of 2014, that I would be fired. I didn't have anyone to take him. I can't just leave a child on the beach while I sail away. It's stupid.
The military initially gave Nash permission to switch jobs, but ultimately refused her transfer. She fell into a deep depression. The military would not talk directly about her case today, but the Prime Minister did.
It's very simple. The choice Laura had to make is not acceptable.
The Liberal government wants 25% of the forces to be women within 10 years. It's an already uphill battle in light of sexual misconduct cases.
The narrative around the military has been challenging over the past few years. And it's not that it's not deserved. I recognize that it's deserved. I need to change the reasons why that narrative exists.
Some have tried to argue Laura Nash should never have chosen a career in the military.
I say that's ridiculous. That's absolutely unfair. It's discriminatory. And I would hope by 2017 that kind of attitude would be banished from society.
We know that this is a very difficult situation for Laura, but we also know it's one that has to end.
Those are strong words from the Prime Minister, but they come too late for Laura Nash. She is due to be released from the military on medical grounds next month. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Calgary police are trying to figure out who's behind a Twitter account that attracted thousands of followers with secretly recorded photos and videos of Calgary women. The images show clothed breasts and buttocks, but also video filmed up women's skirts. This woman, whose photos were posted, chose to speak out.
Women should be able to walk down the street and not feel that someone might be following them or filming them. That's not a comfortable mindset to have when you're just going to lunch.
What shocked her and police even more was that the account has been around for a year.
What's extremely alarming to me personally is that this amount of content is out there and that it's become this much of a social norm to people to see, not only see it, but just bypass it in their everyday searches online.
It appears the person filming the women might have also appeared in some of the posts. Police say they have saved the content, some of which could violate the criminal code. Coming up, are the aggressive tactics that made Uber successful now ruining the company internally? And
how many people have to die?
She lost her husband to fentanyl and wants the rest of us to learn from his story. This next story will be hard for you to watch because of shocking and horrific video. An animal rights group has released undercover evidence of brutal abuse against chickens at farms in British Columbia. Today, outrage over it reached a fevered pitch, and multiple investigations were launched. Greg Rasmussen has more on the video, so disturbing we can't show you most of it.
Seemingly random acts of animal torture, cruel, senseless abuse. Not just one, but several workers from a BC company contracted to humanely catch and transport the chickens instead abuse the animals with impunity, even joking to each other about their actions. The hidden camera video was shot by a member of an animal rights group.
Hitting, kicking, punching, throwing birds, smashing them into walls and into transport crates. The most sickening and sadistic abuse we have ever seen.
It's an upsetting video to watch.
This SPCA officer says it's one of the worst cases she's seen in 14 years on the job.
We're not talking about just the actions that were viewed in the video. In my mind, you're talking about the inaction. There were supervisors who were on site who either participated in some of it or did nothing.
In a statement, the company targeted in the undercover operation, Elite Services, says it's fired 5 workers, including a supervisor. We are sickened with the footage and want to assure all our suppliers and producers that this is not reflective of who we are. We do not condone or tolerate animal abuse. It's not just the SPCA investigating. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency and the RCMP are also looking into what happened. The chickens were on their way to a slaughterhouse run by Lilydale, one of the country's largest poultry processors. The company, as well as Canadian retailers and others in the poultry business, quickly condemned the actions caught on tape and tried to reassure customers.
We're talking again about one or a few individuals that committed some really atrocious acts.
Farmers say the incidents filmed at several different farms were an aberration and are promising action.
This needs to be reviewed, and again, it involves all stakeholders to look at it and ensure that what is happening, that it's checked and balanced.
Mercy for Animals, as well as other groups, say it's time Canada adopt tougher monitoring systems used in other countries. For instance, in some jurisdictions, video is streamed live from farms and slaughterhouses, allowing monitoring around the clock. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Some climate change researchers headed to Hudson Bay had to cancel their plans because of climate change. 40 scientists from 5 universities were on board this Coast Guard icebreaker, the Amundsen. They left Quebec City May 25th, but were diverted to help ferries and fishing boats stuck in hazardous ice conditions off Newfoundland. The scientists took samples off the ice and determined it was multi-year ice, most likely from the high Arctic, and not typical of the area. The second of 2 Ghanaian men who walked over the border into Canada on Christmas Eve has won the right to stay in Canada. Rezaki Iyal lost all of his fingers and part of one thumb to frostbite during his journey to claim asylum. The man he made the journey with also won his case back in March. Canadian Blood Services is putting out a call for donors. It says blood inventory is critically low, especially of O negative, the universal donor. CBS is looking for at least 150,000 donations by July 1st to make it through the summer. Today, Russian authorities responded to yesterday's huge wave of anti-Putin demonstrations that swept the country with jail terms. Sentences of 10 and 15 days for disobeying police were handed to some protesters, with more to likely follow. Opposition leader Alexei Navalny himself was given 30 days for organizing the Moscow event, even though police arrested him before he even showed up to protest. At least 1,700 activists were detained across Russia. The political anxiety in Britain couldn't get much higher. Prime Minister Theresa May is struggling to hold on to power after losing her Conservative majority in last week's snap election. She's in talks with another party to prop up her government. But as Margaret Evans reports, that's creating a whole new set of concerns.
Theresa May might be getting a few more worry lines these days, but Britain's political cartoonists are having a field day. The inkpot mightier than the sword. Dave Brown is drawing his cartoon for tomorrow's independent newspaper, a little clarity in a confused landscape. These were his takes after British voters returned a hung parliament last week, weakening, some say fatally, May's grip on her party, maybe even the country. Her critics might describe her as a dead woman walking, but today in Parliament, May showed she's still got a sense of humour.
Mr. Speaker-elect, on behalf of the whole House, may I congratulate you on your re-election. At least someone got a landslide.
The clearly energised opposition leader, Labour's Jeremy Corbyn, couldn't resist turning a few of May's choice phrases against her.
The Labour Party stands ready to offer strong and stable leadership in the national interest.
May is trying to form a government with support from Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionists, a small party opposed to abortion and gay marriage that could become the tail wagging the dog. There are also fears that a deal with the DUP could unravel Northern Ireland's already fragile peace agreement, which relies on the British government being impartial.
They will not be seen to be impartial if they're locked into a parliamentary deal at Westminster with one of the Northern Ireland parties.
And all the while, the clock ticks down to the start of Brexit talks with the EU next week, unleashing more flights of fancy from the satirists' pens.
We supposedly exaggerate, we invent situations to put these people in, but all the time what we're doing is trying to tell a greater truth.
Today's truth? Theresa May as Stan Laurel and the DUP leader Arlene Foster as Oliver Hardy, decked out in the gear of the Orange Order. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Despite the political turmoil tonight, May assured her French counterpart that Brexit negotiations will begin as scheduled next week. May traveled to France late in the day for a working dinner with President Emmanuel Macron. Afterwards, the two leaders announced a new counter-terrorism action plan, including measures to force internet companies to reduce extremist material online. Jeff Sessions wasn't the only Trump official answering questions today. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis gave Congress his assessment on the Afghan security situation.
We're not winning in Afghanistan right now.
Mattis also said that he was crafting a new war strategy for Afghanistan to be unveiled next month. The U.S. military estimates that the Afghan government only controls or influences about 60% of the country. The Taliban holds sway in much of the rest. And U.S. officials say North Korea has released Otto Warmbier. He's the American student slapped with a 15-year prison term last year for allegedly trying to steal a propaganda poster from a Pyongyang hotel. The 22-year-old is in rough shape and is being medically evacuated home. His parents say he's been in a coma for a year. And if you're wondering how this normal enough looking yearbook photo could get a U.S. high school teacher suspended, look at the original first. This is the student's t-shirt before the teacher made the call to remove the Trump bits with Photoshop. The parents were furious and complained on free speech grounds. The teacher was suspended pending an investigation. Straight ahead, is Uber veering way off course? Tonight we begin a new segment on The National, something we're calling At Issue. It's an opportunity, we hope, for some lively discussion. This week we've been hearing a lot about Western alienation, from Rex Murphy's documentary on Monday to Preston Manning's interview tonight. The Western divide isn't going away anytime soon, so it's the subject for our first At Issue. Let's cut to the chase here. What's really going on between these two?
I think they're groping, feeling each other out. I'm not sure that they're sure that they want to go to a dance together, let alone get married, but at least they're talking. And if you think back that only a year ago, it was Preston Manning who was working to get the Tories interested in the alliance. The greatest irony, perhaps at this point, is that at this point, it does really look like Tory leader Joe Clark is the one who is calling the shots in this.
Well, it has been another wild week in the House of Commons, and hey, it's only Wednesday. But the Grandmere affair has so dominated question period that we've moved up our At Issue panel.
I think you can look at it on different levels, Peter. On the one hand, you're talking about the Prime Minister's conduct, not just in the matter of this one hotel, but in a whole range of grants and loans that were made in his riding to rather unsavory characters who should not have been eligible for any funding, but were at the insistence of either the Prime Minister or his office. The question is not, is he a crook or is he guilty of a crime, but is he in conformity with the Conflict of Interest Code, and more or less formally than that, has he behaved in a way that reflects honor on himself and his office?
Are we to have a parliament where the only leader of the opposition that is in his seat is the leader of the Bloc Québécois?
Are we to have a mandate where you have an election in the shadow of this scandal, so that either you get in, the government gets in without all the facts being known, or the opposition gets in because by default, because people are so scorched by it. Either way, it's not a mandate.
If the scandal is so big, the shadow of it is not going to go away between now and next fall or even next year. It's supposed to be a huge scandal. It's going to be a very long shadow, by the way.
Who knows? Maybe Martin spends the next year cleaning house.
Alan,
who
said
Thomas Mulcair?
It was not Thomas Mulcair.
It was Trudeau or Elizabeth May?
Make a guess.
Elizabeth May.
Andrew and
I was so
Jennifer.
close. I was so close. But
Okay, we gotta leave it at that.
The Supreme Court has said you have to negotiate.
Okay. Struggling retailer Sears Canada is raising significant doubts about its future, and it may have to restructure or find a buyer. The company says that it doesn't expect to have enough cash over the next 12 months to meet its obligations. At the same time, it reported some huge financial losses. First quarter revenue dropped 15% from the same period last year. The department store chain blames a drop in sales both online and through its catalog. To another company now that appears to have lost its way. There seems to be no one behind the wheel at Uber. The ride-sharing company currently doesn't have a chief operating officer, chief financial officer, or president. Top it all off with today's announcement that the CEO is stepping away. Renee Filipponi has the story.
Some people don't like to take responsibility for their own.
In a video shot earlier this year by an Uber driver, company CEO Travis Kalanick gets in a yelling match over low fares. It's just one in a long list of things steering the once tech darling into turmoil. Today, the CEO who founded the company announced he is taking a leave. The move comes after the Uber board agreed to a list of recommendations from a report commissioned after multiple accusations of sexism and sexual harassment within the company. The board will create mandatory manager training, appoint an independent board chair, and create an oversight committee for issues like diversity and ethical practices.
The report is almost saying you have a brutal and a difficult culture, and you need to work on making it a kinder and less difficult culture. This needs to be a place where normal people come to work, not a place that's a gladiatorial match every day.
But it's that culture, some say, that made the company what it is.
Look at the driver. This is how Uber X.
Picking battles with the taxi industry and bullying its way into cities. The company has been accused of corporate espionage and creating technology to mislead regulators. Uber is now picking up passengers in more than 600 cities around the globe.
It's a great strategy for startups to get a foot in the door.
This marketing professor says Uber suffers from a male-dominated bro culture, like many tech startups, but it's not a startup anymore.
The team has not been very responsive, and as a consequence, it now has to do something about these very public risks and criticisms that come up.
Social media campaigns against the company have pushed tens of thousands to delete the ride-hailing app. But the company says ridership is growing. And along with the CEO stepping away, the chief business officer also resigned yesterday, which leaves Uber lacking leadership at a time when other companies are already fighting to take its place. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Toronto.
One board member didn't seem to get the new memo about improving Uber's company culture. He could be heard today making a sexist remark as Ariana Huffington spoke at a meeting with employees.
And there is a lot of data that shows that when there is one woman on the board, it's much more likely that there will be a second woman on the board.
Actually, what it shows us is much likely to be more talking.
Oh, come on, David.
David Bonderman has since apologized, calling the comment disrespectful in an email. Still, lots ahead tonight. The quiet reach of Canada's opioid crisis. The dramatic story behind that multiple boat rescue off the East Coast. And jail cells listed on Airbnb. That's all coming up on The National.
Today's events were part of a program which has been going on since Wednesday evening. Gays and non-gays mingled at the fair, some coming from as far away as Holland and California.
Well, there are a few 100,000 gay people in the city of Toronto, and we felt that the organized gay community wanted to have a celebration of our culture, our community, and this is it. This is Gay Days.
They say together they can work toward acceptance by general society.
Though they marched through the streets today as they have before, the tone was less serious. There were no nightsticks, no confrontations. In the park, the atmosphere was festival.
Gay pride is an expression we use to say that we're proud of our sexuality, that we're not ashamed to say that our lifestyle is worth living.
More than 1,000 of the city's estimated 250,000 gays and lesbians celebrated with a sense of humor. They even found a way to laugh at AIDS.
This is supposed to be a public celebration. It's ironic that at this event, some entertainers and some participants in the rally asked us not to take their picture.
Gays and lesbians marching here fear reprisals for their lifestyle.
A sweltering summer Sunday in the city. A day to meet friends. Lots of friends, as it turned out. It may have been the biggest block party of the season. The parade, too, was a hit, an indication of the self-confidence and self-assurance that lesbians and gays have acquired here in only a few years.
It looked like a big outdoor party as marchers at Toronto's Gay Pride Parade moved through city streets to their own beat.
We want to be strong because we're such a minority and we're not treated real well.
This year, participants had something else to celebrate: the legal right to marry. Hundreds of thousands lined the streets. San Diego native Richard Reed and his partner Ernie Lacasse have been to Pride parades before. This is their first as a married couple. For them, and for their fellow June brides and grooms, this year's parade is indeed a happy one.
They're circular, and the inside of the rim is scorched a little all around, and these circles are approximately 34 to 35 feet wide.
It was a disc shape,
And it had a dome in the middle. Oh, it was a beautiful ship. It was a creamy white color.
It's as if a giant cookie cutter has stamped out circles. They range from 2 to 20 meters in diameter and come in a variety of patterns. Some swirl clockwise, others fan out from the center. Around the crisp perimeter, the fields are intact.
The plants are going through some form of molecular change, causing them to grow into huge dartboard patterns.
It's beyond anything we can suggest, and beyond any conventional science, the way this has been constructed.
Visitors are coming from miles around to see the latest attraction near Conquest, Saskatchewan. It's the most excitement people in this area have seen in a while. One of the circles looks like a donut. Another has a tail pointing to the south. And on a nearby field owned by a Hutterite colony, there are 6 circles. In all of them, the stalks of wheat are flattened but not damaged.
I'm not a great believer in UFOs, but once you see them right up close, they're different.
It was the last thing John Petty expected to see. He was out baling hay when something caught his eye.
I thought it was very strange. I got off the tractor and came in and looked around, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
Not really much gets going on here in Howick, so this is something new.
Sometimes he couldn't believe that he had the life that he'd always wanted.
Murray Shaw seemed to have it all. So when the respected college professor was found dead in a hotel room in Vancouver's downtown east side, it changed the way some saw the city's spiraling fentanyl crisis. The idea that if it could happen to Murray, it could happen to anyone. Murray's wife is heartbroken, but she shared her husband's story with the CBC's Chris Brown, hoping to change the conversation about how we treat addiction.
We know that excellent care begins with the right facts, and the facts here are devastating.
A community needing comfort came together recently at Vancouver's Christ Church Cathedral.
Last year alone, over 900 people died of overdoses.
I think in some ways I still am in a bit of shock sometimes that he's gone.
Sasha Wood was among those in the pews. She had a happy life with her husband, Murray Shaw. Shaw was an avid athlete and a respected member of the faculty at a Vancouver community college until the killer drug fentanyl stole everything away.
I think as I sat here, I felt sad, but then I started feeling really angry. I just felt like, this is crazy. This is, like, I'm really angry now. I just think this is, like, when's it gonna be enough? Like, how many people have to die?
Drug overdoses killed almost 1,000 people last year in BC. Right now, there are 4 or 5 new deaths every day, and the crisis is getting worse. Wood said she wanted to tell us her husband's story to demonstrate how the healthcare system is failing those with addictions.
Fentanyl is kind of breaking the molds in terms of everything that we've thought about in terms of, heroin and drugs in general in our society, and that it's just so incredibly toxic.
Dr. Evan Wood is one of Canada's leading addictions experts.
Overdose, East Hastings Street.
He works at St. Paul's Hospital in downtown Vancouver. It's at the epicenter of the fentanyl crisis.
That's absolutely jumped the bounds of what we'd consider the sort of traditional heroin-using population, people who are street entrenched because of the toxic nature of the drug supply, even people who are occasional users and people who don't think they're at risk when they're snorting something or they're injecting something and it turns out to be fatal.
I like that one. His eyes look just like Murr, very kind.
At their home in New Westminster, Sasha Wood still keeps her husband's bicycle in their living room. Shaw was 57 and loves sports. He loved his job, too. He was a sociologist who taught at nearby Douglas College.
He used to always come home and say how much he loved his life Like sometimes he couldn't believe that he had the life that he'd always wanted. So he was I used to get jealous because he'd always be going on like almost every day, like, I'm so lucky.
Perhaps he appreciated his life so much because once before, he'd come very close to losing everything. In his late 20s, Shaw had a problem with booze. An alcoholic, he got treatment, and Wood says he didn't have a single drink in almost 20 years. But then, on a bike trip with some friends in the U.S., he cracked open a beer, and Wood says that's all it took to send his life spiraling down.
I think that's what was so traumatic for him is when he had that relapse. He was shocked that everything could get so bad so quickly and all the consequences that came with it.
Sasha Wood says Shaw struggled to stop drinking. Douglas College paid for him to get into rehab twice, but she says she now believes her husband likely left the program too early, worried about being off work for too long. When he returned home, she says he quickly progressed from booze to harder drugs.
I wouldn't have any idea that he was dealing with addiction issues.
Bill Angelbeck is also a sociologist at Douglas College, and he regularly had lunch with Shaw.
Well, he was withdrawn and reserved, and I just thought, give him some space, maybe. And now, of course, why? You just wish, had that conversation, and we could have talked about that. It was a conversation you wish you could have had and didn't. And you just don't think something like this is going to happen, right?
The healthcare system has basically said they're not dealing with this.
The stigma of drug use, says Dr. Evan Wood, is part of what's killing people. He says the healthcare system treats addiction differently from other illnesses.
Come on, buddy, you can make it.
With tragic results.
If I was having chest pain and I went into the emergency room right now having a heart attack, I'd be seen by a team of doctors. If you show up in an emergency room in Canada with addiction, people are just going to kind of look to you like this. Even in well-developed urban areas like Vancouver, where there's been long-standing problems, I have been saying the system isn't broken. There isn't a system. We don't have a system of care for substance use in Canada.
So there's so many things that could be improved rather than just treating him in isolation.
Sasha Wood says families of addicts are often overwhelmed and get too little information about how they can help.
And often people say, don't feel guilty, there's nothing you could do. But I know that there's things I could have done differently. I think I was sort of traumatized and not thinking clearly. And I was like, oh, okay, well, if you're not going to do it again, then I guess you're not going to do it again. And it just got worse and worse.
This past March, barely 14 months after Shaw chugged that first beer, he left his wife at home and headed to Vancouver's downtown east side.
He came to us because he, talked to us. There's no judgmental.
There he met Dale Brown, an addict himself, who occasionally shared heroin with Shaw.
He realized, that it was a very relapse, right? And he felt that he was just drowning in pressure, right?
One night, instead of going home like he told Brown he was going to, Shaw instead checked into a room at the budget Patricia Hotel, alone, to shoot up.
I wish I would have got him just to crash out on the couch, I feel my own guilt.
Shaw spent his last night in room 406. When he didn't come home, Wood says she called police. A couple of hours later, came a knock on the door. Her husband was dead.
Yeah, it was the saddest moment in my life. And just the fact that he was alone in a hotel by himself when he died, suffering and probably feeling very guilty. And because all his notes in his journals say that that was his biggest fear, is that he would die and cause his family and me pain.
The coroner's report listed the cause of death as fentanyl. It was likely mixed in with the heroin police found next to him.
Some people say, well, he made a bad choice. And that really makes me sad because I know he wasn't making a free choice.
Shaw's friends and family believe better information for them and a system where addiction isn't stigmatized and criminalized could have saved his life. There are many growing memorials in Vancouver these days to the dead from drug overdoses. Just down the street from the Patricia is a wall where people have handwritten more names of the dead.
They wrote that in memory of him, and yeah.
Murray Shaw's is there now.
It reminds me that this is where he died and it's not where he wanted to die.
Sasha Wood hopes by sharing her story, more families battling addiction can be spared her fate. Chris Brown, CBC News, Vancouver.
The opioid crisis has hit a desperate high in some U.S. cities as well. Portsmouth, Ohio is one of them. Here's a story The National is working on.
It's the unofficial anthem of Portsmouth. Clint Askew and his crew rhyme about the hard times in the 740, the area code here, and its infamy as opioid ground zero, where there are thousands of users in a city of just 20,000.
It started to become like pills. Like all of a sudden pills, people were talking about pills or Loracets or Percocets or something like that. And I was just like, what the heck?
Overdoses. In Ohio, more than 4,000 people died last year from unintentional drug overdoses, up by a third from the year before. Methadone-based treatments are more tightly restricted than in Canada and are usually only available in major cities, so the cycle continues.
This is just going to be our new normal. We're just going to be dealing with this forever and ever.
When despair and unemployment collide with addiction and become a trap. What Portsmouth, Ohio can learn from Canada.
You can see that story next week on The National. As for tonight, we'll take you to California next, where empathy and sanctuary are provoking anger and protest.
Suicide is a huge problem here in this town. We lost so many friends. My best friend, Johnny, committed suicide. During his funeral at the church, I didn't cry. Not until he was getting put down 6 feet down for the last time I was going to see him. It broke my heart into a million pieces. Nervous lang ako. Kala kayo mama. Nervous? Galing na. Ayos na rin na ito. Kung natunang ito, kapag ayos na naman.
Malahigit na. 7:30. Yeah, earlier.
Thank you for supporting the annual dance competition. Piyang na nakapta. Ya pekan na kalu puila kalu kita piyugapta. Kihani umatit tinatay na yuyut. Atay nang na Leonie ihumagilugo 1 minute ni pailaw nata. Amata na iminyang dat atoga kang nilarito. Aming huyano ta na atugaw himadak to halaw yun wat siya. So thank you. Umarit sana po. Umarit sa valore tum na hukti lo lo do tuk tinia man.
Comitanza di forze. Siamo sempre noi a decidere chi siamo, 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 chi siamo.
The way I dance to the people who I dedicated to, it honors them. Once they see me dancing to them, they feel happy, respected, care, friendship.
It's one of the most passionate debates of the Trump era. As he targets illegal immigrants, support is going up for cities that offer them sanctuary. But that's not sitting well with some people who say those cities are actually acting as safe havens for criminals. And as California pushes forward with a plan to becoming the first sanctuary state, Kim Brunhuber went to the front lines of the fight.
We're going to stay right here. We're going to come to all of your city town halls.
It's an exquisite tension, being so close to someone you hate so much, wanting to punch them, knowing you can't. Though sometimes they come close. This is as violent as it gets. One side speaks Spanish, the other, the language of the so-called alt-right.
Now he's a beta cuck! Now he is a beta cuck!
If you hang around this protest long enough, you realize many on both sides actually know each other. They've seen each other before, on other nights, at other protests in other cities. This evening, a town hall meeting in Cudahy has become the unlikely stage for a proxy war over an issue that has divided the state.
Why are you pointing fingers at me? You're calling me an illegal? No, I'm not. Whoever comes in here has to follow the law.
Even divided Latinos. The idea of sanctuary. In the 1960s, Cudahy, about 12 kilometers east of Los Angeles, was a manufacturing town, mainly white. Now, about 90% of its residents are Latino. More than a year ago, Cudahy declared itself a sanctuary city. There is no set definition, but generally in sanctuary cities, if an undocumented person gets arrested for anything but a very serious crime, local police won't tell federal immigration. Which makes some Californians, like Joseph Turner, angry. Why protect people who broke the law, he says.
When you look at sanctuary cities, they essentially allow lawlessness to take place. They put American citizens' lives at risk by allowing illegal alien criminals to return to our streets, and that's unacceptable.
Donald Trump has threatened to withhold federal funding from sanctuary cities, but the courts have basically said he can't. Now, Turner thinks he's found a way to punish sanctuary cities using the city's own laws.
You guys are not going to stop me. I know you guys are playing games already. I know the city attorney is playing games already.
Turner, who doesn't live in Cudahy, has filed an initiative.
I can come after utility user tax, I can come after the sales tax, I can file an initiative on other things and go after you guys' salaries, I can cap executive compensation. There's a whole host of things I can do.
If it gets enough signatures, he can repeal a utility tax that generates $1 million a year, a big chunk for a small city. His message to other sanctuary cities, he's coming for them too.
This is sort of our beachhead. You know, if we can make this work here, we can get some traction, some positive momentum, and take it to other nearby cities that have a similar demographic profile and also have a sanctuary city status.
In the end, Cudahy is unlikely to vote itself broke. The city, the council, is almost all Latino. But even areas that voted for Trump may not be able to escape being labeled as sanctuaries against their will. If you're driving north from Los Angeles and you want to find Trump voters, look for the pump jacks or the farm crops. And when you see both in the same field, you're in Kern, the biggest Republican county left in California. Sitting around a table in a mini mall, a couple of old friends complain about the so-called illegals.
It's whoever wants what for free gets it.
They're thrilled that the president is fulfilling his promise to crack down on illegal immigrants. Since the president took office, the number of arrests is up nearly 40%. And it's about time, according to this former cop.
You don't let people invade your country.
For too long, he says, undocumented criminals have been coddled by state politicians in Sacramento.
There's too many people up there that are too liberal, that are willing to give our country away or our state away.
Exhibit A, he says, soon the state's legislators may approve a bill that would make California the nation's first sanctuary state. That would make it illegal for any local police to investigate, detain, or arrest people for immigration enforcement purposes. And that has angered many sheriffs across the state.
We're not looking for a fight with the federal government.
Kern County is the first jurisdiction in California to officially oppose sanctuary status.
If we don't work with the federal government, some of these criminal immigrants that are here illegally will be released back in our community and create more victims.
Cities in California that oppose state sanctuary are in a quandary. If they cooperate with federal immigration, the state could cut funding. If they don't, they could be targeted by the Trump administration.
We will have the federal government saying one thing with regard to this, and we'll have the state government saying an entirely another thing. So what would you do?
With more than a dozen states contemplating sanctuary state measures and nearly twice as many having introduced bills to ban them, the conflict may ultimately be decided not by politicians, but by judges.
Build that wall! Build that wall!
In the meantime, Turner's group will stir up more sanctuary cities, disrupt more town halls, hoping to get residents to defund their own communities.
White supremacists! Back to Europe! White supremacists! Back to Europe!
And the pro-sanctuary activists vow to track them, to stop them if they can. Both sides driven by incompatible ideas of what it means to be American. Kim Vancouvers, CBC News, Cudahy, California.
A sailor caught in a hurricane for more than a day shares his harrowing rescue story. That's next on The National. Time to check today's business numbers. The TSX fell slightly. The Canadian dollar rose a full cent. In New York, the Dow added 92 points, closing at a record high. And the price of oil was up 38 cents a barrel.
I'm Anna Maria Tremonti. Tomorrow on The Current, Italy is the first Western country considering legislation for paid period leave for women. Supporters say it's progressive. Critics say it's reverse sexism. That's on The Current, weekdays at 8:30 on CBC Radio 1.
The amazing Alouette has outperformed anything that's been shot into space since the Russians started it with Sputnik 1. The mere fact that it's still faithfully sending back messages from the top side of the ionosphere is enough to make it remarkable. When it was launched in September of 1962, its designers figured that with luck it would operate for a year. As of right now, it's been in orbit for 5 years and 7 months, and 3 of the 6 original batteries are still working.
It was a picture that Canadian engineers had waited 6 years to see, and for which Canadian taxpayers paid $100 million. A giant space robot with Canada's name on it and the Earth above. The remote manipulator system performing perfectly.
Okay, and be advised that we're looking at a great picture.
Good evening. It was a spectacular liftoff and a history-making day for Canada. The shuttle Challenger blasted off the pad at Cape Canaveral at dawn. On board, astronaut Marc Garneau, the very first Canadian in space.
This trip into space for me has turned out to be more than ever I could have hoped for. It's a great honor for me to represent Canada in space.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery and the first International Microgravity Laboratory.
Good evening. There's a Canadian in the heavens tonight, Roberta Bonder, going around in circles and entirely happy about it. Canada's second astronaut in space. She's orbiting planet Earth about 300 kilometers straight up. She left from this space center this morning, 59 minutes later than scheduled, but after a lifetime of anticipation, those minutes probably won't mean very much in the long run.
Incredible view.
A crucial spacewalk took place in the skies above us early today, and Canadian astronaut Julie Payette was in charge. Payette coordinated the mission from onboard the Space Shuttle Discovery.
History was made high in the sky today. For the very first time, a Canadian walked in space. Early this morning, astronaut Chris Hadfield began installing Canadarm2, and with it, launched a new era for the International Space Station.
With great humility and pleasure, I accept command of the International Space Station.
Get back soon.
The National.
The National.
Tonight.
Johnny's back. Crossing the country, connecting Canadians.
You better be prepared.
Ready for just about anything. Johnny Harris returns with Still Standing. The new season begins Tuesday, June 27th on CBC.
It doesn't have all the comforts of home, but if you're looking for a unique place to stay, starting this weekend, you can rent rooms in this old jail in Dorchester, New Brunswick through Airbnb. For just $34 a night, you get a 2 by 3 meter cement cell, plus a key, of course, so you can get out anytime you want. Just don't expect room service. Imagine yourself caught in a hurricane, winds whipping around you at 130 kilometers an hour. Now imagine you're on a sailboat in those winds in the middle of the Atlantic. That's where several sailors found themselves this past weekend, caught in sudden stormy weather way off the coast of Newfoundland, until they were finally rescued about 36 agonizing hours later. Today, one of them talked about what happened. Carolyn Ray has his story.
On a picturesque morning in Halifax Harbour, Queen Mary II arrived, carrying one extra passenger than when she left Southampton. Mervyn Wheatley beamed as he took his first steps on shore after his race across the Atlantic went horribly wrong.
The contrast between what I just left, which was a boat in fairly poor condition with water over the floorboards and so on, and then this magnificent stateroom was just surreal.
Last Thursday, Wheatley and his fellow skippers came across a monster of a storm. They faced hurricane-like conditions, including 15-meter waves that flipped Wheatley's yacht.
I knew I had a problem because the boat was upside down. And when it came up again, which it did fairly quickly, it was a shambles.
The floorboards were ripped up, the steering gone, water was coming in through a broken window. Wheatley, a retired British Navy captain, had just landed in Canada's search and rescue zone. That's a 36-hour voyage from here. Unbeknownst to him, his yacht had automatically sent out an SOS. A few hours later, he heard the drone of a plane, a Canadian Hercules.
And that was a huge relief. And actually, I was so relieved, I couldn't even speak on the radio to start off with. I was quite surprised how taken aback I was emotionally.
So we've had some wild cases, multiple ships even, but nothing of the intensity of these at least 6 yachts.
Wheatley wasn't the only one who had to be saved. In Halifax, a complex international rescue mission was underway at the Joint Rescue Coordination Centre. They used a Cormorant helicopter to pull an Italian sailor to safety. They enlisted the help of an oil and gas ship to save another. And in Wheatley's case, the Queen Mary II was called into action.
We train for these all the time, but it's the first time we've been underway at sea in heavy swell with quite strong winds.
I think at the heart of all search and rescue is a Good Samaritan variable, that we're obligated to help anybody, no matter their wealth or their employment.
During the rescues, one question wasn't asked: who pays? Newton says these officers are simply doing their jobs.
And indeed, I don't think you can calculate what I've learned and what our crews learned by flying in this internationally coordinated effort into the deep Atlantic.
Wheatley's Tamarind is now lost at sea, and the sailor is flying home tonight. After years of working on the water, he says this won't stop him from sailing the Atlantic and risking the elements again. Carolyn Ray, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, that's The National this Tuesday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm Peter Mansbridge. Thanks for watching.